Hey there, everybody. So I wanted to make a little video talking about how to set your dimensioning styles in AutoCAD to the proper values for metric and a couple other little nuances. So for this AutoCAD Dimension Drawing 3, there's a fixture cap here. There's an image of it. If it loads, there we go. It's been misbehaving a little bit here. But so all these values are in metric. And we've run into some issues with plotting metric when we go to send it to a PDF and bring it into the layout. There's that ridiculous scale you have to add in there. Well, I tried to make it easier for everyone. So this time I'm giving you a literal template to use. So you can download this. The template has in it, this is an example, it has both an imperial and a metric layout. So the metric layout here has the typical title block along the bottom. You can go and edit those just like normal to put your name and all that stuff. But the metric template, the big difference is that in the page setup here, I didn't want you guys to have to deal with this, but I set the scale to millimeters and 1:1. And what that seems to do is that seems to make it so if I go into paper or into model space here and I do zoom extents and then zoom 1xp, it does it real size because this is about 300 millimeters across total from circle to circle. And so that should be bigger than the paper because the paper is a little smaller than 200 millimeters. So everything adds up. And actually, so for this one, if you're working on this one, the actual scale that you would want is going to be about 1/4 XP. And that comes out pretty good because 1/2 XP doesn't quite do it. It's a little too big. But anyways, so this metric layout should behave properly. If you're doing normal scaling, everything should be good. But that brings us on to dimensioning. So up until now, we've only talked about how to dimension something that was done in inches. So I just want to show a couple notes on that. You know how to open dim styles. You can click this little button down here in the annotate tab, or you can type dim styles. We're going to make a new, wrong button. Make a new dimensioning style. I'll call it metric, if I can spell today. And I've got here as a piece of paper, I've got the set of values, but I gave you guys right here just a PowerPoint slide that has all of the different options in it. So this column right here are all the things you have to change. Notice there's more things that when we do fractional inches, you normally wouldn't change them, but you've got to change them for metric or else things are going to look super weird. So you should be able to go right down this list. I put the tabs in order. So I'm going to go down that list here so you can watch me do it. And again, I've got my paper copy right here, so I'm just kind of going off that. So starting with the lines tab, let's just start right there. The first thing to change is extend beyond dim lines. For the most part, what you're going to see is anything that we normally would have changed to 0.125, we're going to change it to 3 for 3 millimeters. But then there's like real small ones like this. And don't worry if this looks super weird right now. It should look better as we keep going. So 3 millimeters. Let's do offset from origin. We're going to set that to 1.5. And that's actually the gap there between the dimensions and stuff. I think the reason this looks so weird right now is because we haven't changed the text size yet. Baseline spacing, we're going to actually set to 10. That would be the default distance of the dimension away from the object. If we were doing baseline dimensioning, let's keep going. Symbols and arrows. Let's change the arrow size here to 3, because like I said, that normally would have been 1.5. Let's change our center mark sizing also to 3. And what I've also found is actually if you do none, that seems to be okay for this versus the mark or the line. So that's up to you if you want to put in the center marks manually or let the dimension add them in themselves, you can do that. The break size, let's make that 3 millimeters. Also, I believe the break size is the gap between around the number when we're in there. Let's see, anything else here? Break size, nope, that's it for this tab. Let's go to text. So we're going to adjust the text height to 3. Oh, and see, that fixed everything. So maybe we should have started here so it didn't look so terrible. We're going to do the offset from dim line. We're going to make that a 1. And that should help that a little bit. So that changes. I think that's the gap. Offset from dim line. I don't remember what that is. If you hover over this, it explains. Sets the current text gap, which is the distance around the dimension text which is the dimension line is broken. So that's like the spacing around here. If we make this smaller, it probably gets closer. Oh, you can't barely see it. So anyways, we're going to keep going. Fit, we're going to leave this the same, but I want to make a note of this use overall scale. I'm going to show something at the end. When you're scaling, you may want to scale this up. So I'll talk about that later. We can come back and change it. Finally, our unit format, we can just leave that at decimal. You may want to turn the precision down. If you put it at 0, if these are all whole millimeters, then that won't hurt anything either, but that is not on the PowerPoint sheet that I'm holding here. And that is all of our metric dim styles. Let's set that as current. And what that should give you is it should give you good looking dimensions in here. Like if we dimension from this center point to this center point. All right. Now it is doing this at 3 millimeters tall, which is what we asked for. The thing is that if you think about it, this overall distance here is ginormo. If we zoom in on that, that's 120 millimeters. So no wonder the text looks so small. So let's jump over here then. Let's jump over to look in our metric viewport. This is where, if we've got this set already, if I double click, all right, I've got it at 1/4 scale. This is what I was talking about, that scaling option in the dim style box. So if I go in here and I say dim style, and I open that dialog back up, and I modify the metric standard, and I jump over to fit. Oh, good, I was already there. Watch this. If you think about it, if we're scaling all of the drawing itself down to 1/4 scale, if we multiply our dimension scale by 4, it's going to keep it at the normal size because 1/4 times 4 cancels out. And that should make our dimensions bigger and more readable. So over here where I've got all the dimensions done already, and let's set this at, let's get into our metric, where I've got the dimensions done already, if I do dim style on this document, which is in fact a different document, so it's not going to carry over, dim style, that is, if I look in here, the reason those look so good is because I already have it at 4. If I set this back to 1 and say okay, it makes everything tiny again. So that's a quick way, is to go in dim style and change the scale of your dimension features up. If you have scaled the actual drawing down in your in your model space over here, it will blow the dimensions back up so that they are readable. So this is super useful. So I hope that helps. I hope that explains some things. I hope it makes more sense. Let me know if you have questions.